70% failure rate from phase 1 to phase 2 is technical based. It's not.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So we know it's emotional. The data is there. So you guys and girls in the chat understand what we're trying to do here. The reason why we're talking about it, number one, is to give you the heads up that you have an opportunity to get. And number two, open people's minds up to the fact that if you, exactly, that's me, I failed phase 2. It's quite common, right? You're not alone. There's thousands upon thousands of people doing it. But the question is, you know, and I watch this from Imam Maghazi and lots of other people that talk about, if you study successful people, they're not afraid to invest in themselves. It's the one thing, my observation of this industry, I was the same, wasn't afraid to invest in myself. I feel like the biggest problem in this industry is that they are. They're always looking for some kind of code or that, where if you study successful people in all these like different pockets of industries, they're never afraid to do that. If they want to get into property, they're like, right, I need to know the ins and outs of property. And someone said, look, hey, in order for you to be a property developer, it would be like this. In order for you to be a property developer, you need to also understand the planning game. If I said that to you, like the planning side of things, you need to understand how planning permission works. It's so vital. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to learn that. And you start learning about properties. I'm like, Abdu, how much have you spent on planning? This is the course on planning permission. It complements that to such a high degree. It's like, yeah, I'll deal with that once I've started building the house. You'd be like, but you don't know what you're doing. Like, you could be doing lots of things wrong. You could lose a lot of money. It would be like that. But in property, you would understand it and go, that makes sense. I need to go and do that. But in trading, when you say 90% of this is psychological and it's going to mess you up, you're going to lose loads of money and it's going to stop you from making lots of money. Yeah, I'm not sure if I need it.
Honestly, maybe it's a bit of a weird take just because, like, I guess I have the hindsight to say it now, but I actually appreciated that when we started trading back then, trading was more expensive, to be honest. Like, even the courses that were available back then, there was no like £97 a month or whatever, right? You had to pay a few $1,000s at the time. And in a way, it like, one reason why I was okay with it, to me, was actually logical, was if I was going to learn financial freedom, so to speak, I didn't expect to just learn it in a couple of months. I'm sorry, that was just a perspective I've never really resonated with. I never thought I'd boot up YouTube, watch a couple videos, backtest for like 30 hours, and I was like, here we are, guys. I've beat the rat race, and I'm on my way out now, right? Like, that was genuinely never my perspective for a second. And on the other side of things, and again, maybe an arrogant perspective, but like, when I looked at like Ivy League schools in North America, right, like Harvard and all these things that literally cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, to me, paying like 10K or whatever was like nothing in comparison. I was like, dude, if this thing somehow is like a legitimate source, obviously, and they only want 10K for financial freedom, that to me was extremely logical. Whereas now what's happening, you know, and that's also a bit of a byproduct of like technology, is things are more accessible around the world for most things. And fair enough, right? That's objectively a good thing. But psychologically, I think it's also made people not value any information at all, because it's also like, I could just find this later. I don't really need this right now or whatever. And then not realizing the actual philosophy that has created in the back of their mind. Same way you're saying, like everyone, what you're saying, Imam Maghazi, it's like you reinvest. That's something I've actively done. Like even before I became a Falcon coach, I would pay for learning whatever. I did, like I've been doing snowboarding, right? It's technically my second season. I have a snowboarding coach. That was the first thing I did right away. Like I did not even spend, I got on board. I was like, I got to go get a coach, right? And I pay their hourly rate or whatever. And my improvement has been like dramatically more, you know, because why would I waste time? I'm sure I could watch YouTube videos on how to snowboard, but it was a lot quicker to have someone follow me and say, hey, bend your right knee. You're doing too much weight here. You're doing this there. And then all of a sudden you're picking up like tweaks, 30 an hour, so to speak. You know, it's just insane.
It's actually more cost effective as well, even from like a trading standpoint, if you think about it. The amount of money, if we average it out, so it's like $600-700, $500 to $700, let's call it $500 per prop firm account, right? For just if we average out. Statistically, people are going to fail at least 4 or 5 accounts, at least. I'm saying if they've not got the right guidance, they're not listening, they're listening to too many people as well, which could be the wrong thing, and they're too over-invested as well. Because like what you guys mentioned about investing in yourselves, a lot of people, what they do as well is they over-invest. So what I mean by that is this, like they will they'll try something for 3 to 5 months, and they'll think, I'm not really getting it, so I need to learn more, I need to expand more, I need to collect more information, and so let me reinvest into myself by going and buying another course from somewhere. Now that might seem logical to someone thinking that I'm expanding my knowledge, but you're expanding it so much that you don't actually get to set a perspective on the markets, you know, from a singular standpoint, which I do think as a trader, you've got to be very not closed-minded is the wrong word to use, but you've got to be very tunnel vision. You've got to be one-dimensional as a trader, because if you're not and you're too open and you've got too many dimensions open, you're not going to find a way to look at the market effectively, eloquently. But getting back to my point, what a lot of traders need to realize is that these accounts, so if you say 4 accounts, that's what, $2,000 roughly. If you add up education costs over the span of the years, let's say if it's in that same year that they would have failed, I don't know, 4 or 5 accounts, 2.5K, and you then compare that to education costs, if they invest that into psychology programs, technical related programs, mentorship, it adds up to either the same amount or less, right? But which one has the higher return? How many people fail accounts, yet they don't know why they failed? They get knocked down, they get back up straight away, and they go back at it again with this mindset of nothing's going to take me down, but they don't realize why they got knocked down in the first place. So they're getting back up the same person again and again and again, and they're recreating the same experience reality again and again and again. And so they're going to be two, three, four, sometimes $5,000, because there's a poll on my Instagram to show this. Some people have spent almost $10,000 on reattempting proprietary accounts.
Not shocked.
That's ridiculous. And not only now are they in financial debt, they're in emotional debt, because they've got no confidence left, and they don't know who to listen to anymore. Actually, cost their entire future. When if you people just push their ego aside for a minute and think, why would we be pushing something so much if it didn't work? Because logically, if this doesn't work, if Rewired never worked, we wouldn't push it, because we know that people would find out it doesn't work.
Exactly.
So we wouldn't push it if it didn't work. It's just...
Any questions, by the way? We've been going into quite a lot of things. If anyone has any genuine questions about Rewired, about Falcon, feel free to send them our way. I am just looking at a few bits in the markets again, just seeing how Euro Aussie and Euro Kiwi shape up.
We will scam you so well that you will make money.
Yeah, exactly. The best scam in the world. I had a podcast because you're coaching Tyron, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, just on the podcast with Tyron. You guys will really appreciate it. He's a really, really good guy. He's kind of kept himself in the shadows, but really hard worker. I didn't realize he's only like an hour out from Andrew.
Oh shit, I didn't know that.
Oh wow.
Cool. Yeah, nice. Yeah.
So we were talking about, when we eventually do the New York meetup. I think that'll be really cool, because internally from obviously the States, it's a lot easier to people like fly internationally, right? And then from where you are in Canada, it's not too far.
That's easy. Yeah.
What was the flight for you, for like a couple of hours or an hour or something?
Like hour 15, I think.
Yeah, so it's like
it's one of those ones that's cool, because you literally, like, if you take a quick nap, you close your eyes on the takeoff, and then you open, you're like, oh, we've landed. Like that's what happened on my return flight. Literally, it was a really bad storm day and everything, and it was one of those ones that they delayed the flight multiple times because they really should have. Like they were saying, we're probably not going to take off tonight, and then I guess I got an ambitious pilot. He's like, yeah, I can do this, and then you're just taking off, and I was like, all right, here we go. Close my eyes, and I was back in Montreal, so it was cool.
Oh, well, That'll be wicked then. That is so close for like those parts of the world to be able to do that.
That'll be really nice. Yeah.
Parts as well. Something. Byron's story, like he spoke about. So I won't spoil the podcast, obviously, but he spoke about like a really pivotal point that I think that you'll both relate to, and everybody was, which is like you have these like kind of signs in your life, these like things that happen, and I always love those type of stories because obviously I didn't know this until the podcast today, and it's just like it's those moments that sometimes you just can't make it up. Like for example, you saw the Falcon flag.
Yeah.
Almost so sometimes a bit bizarre. It's like this is too accurate as to why this has happened in this moment. So I'll save it for the podcast, but I think the whole community will love it, and you guys will love it.
Yeah. Hey, he's a sick guy, Tyron.
It'll be cool to listen to.
Yeah, well, he's in the FX lives at 2 a.m, so he's super committed. See if there's any questions anywhere where we can add some value here. Mark, it'd be great to hear you back on Alpha Mind again in a new unit of time. Yeah, I would definitely be jumping on that. I'll reach out to Stephen. That would be good. That's been a while since I was on that. I've gone through Rewired and I've seen a huge differences, like massive every morning go for the other parts of Rewired. Generally seen a difference in my mindset towards trading but I'm still having issues and not sure if I'm overthinking it, like what you say a lot. Well, it can just be a sequence, like Abdul was talking about it earlier. You know, sometimes you do get a sequence. Like, for example, I get many questions like this, and one was on the monthly live, which is they've essentially got to a level where they're really great at trading, but their trading account is in drawdown, right, on a funded account. But they've had it for like 8 months, and within that 8 months, 4 months of it, they weren't that great, and they've had 4 months of breaking through. So it's like half of the account is not a reflection on their skill set, but technically because they were so far in drawdown, they're almost attaching their skill set to that. I was like, well, you can't really do that because you're kind of you're a new version of yourself, and it's sometimes the same in trading. You might have developed the right mindset, you naturally feel so much better about yourself, you're more emotionally in control. However, you could just be going through a sequence of losses, and then you're going to attach that to, I thought it would all be fixed right now. But what if you're just going through a horrible sequence? That it's too early on is the point that I'm making. Like, you've got to give it time. Just because you feel better doesn't mean the results will come straight away.
Well, I think that's aside, because that's a good point that people generally, like, I don't want to say lack of experience, but like when you actually just haven't lived long enough, so to speak, in the market, that they don't realize what a sequence actually can be. And what happens sometimes, and that's kind of my point, is sometimes you may take, let's just say you have no psychological problems, right, in this example, and then you take a loss and you're fine with it, whatever. Then you're probably a more conservative trader. You take another trade maybe 2 weeks later. That one also loses. Now, the problem is you've only taken 2 losses, which mathematically in most strategies is nothing. But they're 2 weeks apart. So all of a sudden, you've been in drawdown for 2.5 weeks or whatever. Maybe your next trade is like, let's just say 2 weeks later in this example. So you've been quote unquote in drawdown for a month. Now, if you just look at a sequence, it doesn't really matter because the trade does not know how long ago the other trade was. But for you, it feels like it's been forever. So then all of a sudden now you're beyond your level of like, oh, I've been -2 for really long now. I should do something about it. Now you're getting a new feeling on how to respond to the situation that has actually nothing to do with the technicals. It has to do with the fact of you saying, like, it could be something as simple as like, oh, Q1 ends end of March. I'm not happy with my Q1 results. Let me try to get these numbers up. Objectively, what you end Q1 does not matter in most situations, assuming there's no contract or whatever and no actual deadline. It does not matter what you end Q1. But because you want to end Q1 positive, just to say you ended it positive, you may now end. And that's the same thing with assessments, right? Assessments, you may start an FTMO, your week 1, whatever, it goes whatever. As you enter the end of the second week, you now know you have really just 1 more trading week, so to speak, or like 1.5 more trading weeks. And part of you now says, I have to find these trades now, you know, and then you have to do those things, all those things. And that's the whole point, is a lot of these things can come sequence in there, even for the person who's doing well, now judge themselves, because look, it's not fun to fail an FTMO and get that email that says, oh, sorry, like it didn't work out, because you're like, I did everything right, or so to speak, but yet the result says, no, you didn't, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it, and that is a tough one, and that's the stuff that people are going through every single day. The amount of people that are going through these challenges, which is even more so, like even in congruency with going through challenges. Like, what's your emotional reaction to when stuff like that happens, where you feel like you've done everything right for whatever reason? Let's say the target was 10 and you made 8, and you actually performed really well. That can be disheartening for a lot of people. It's like, come on, you know, like 2%. You're like, I done everything really great. I performed well. These trades were good, but I just didn't hit it. And then you have to go again and again. And sometimes just by not emotionally knowing how to regulate that is demoralizing. So then you go to the next one as either a just try to do it again, and then now you're more stressed because you've almost seen yourself nearly cross the finish line. So then you don't approach it the same way, where there was like less fear before. So it's just so interesting from a psychological standpoint as to how many areas, even when you're doing well, you need it. Even when you're not, especially when you're not doing well, you definitely need it. So I don't want to trade the Falcon strategy as I have one in place that works. However, I want to join a community. Would it still be of value? How do I get involved? This is an interesting one, right? Because listen, we will never turn people down from joining Falcon. There's lots of other side benefits. Falcon, I mean, 50 different things, not to mention our infrastructure, our funding program, etc. What we won't have, and which it won't be valuable to us more so, is that someone coming in with a different strategy to then be posting trading charts that are not related to our strategy. That's just not something we would be okay with. If you're looking to get involved in Falcon because you want access to our in-house funding program and etc., that's a kind of a different story. But if your trading system works, it works. You're doing really well. if you don't have the circle, that's a different question. I would say maybe more suited to rewired first, because you have that, you know, that Discord community. You have access to a lot of Falcon people in there as well that you're able to like rub shoulders with. That fund they're doing really well, and that's important as well. Live in pound yen, nice, Colin. Right, let's take pound yen quick. Colin's in it. Let's see.
I think you got in on that 5 minute.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some nice. I love the movement in the markets right now. Abdi, you're going to have a really fun FX live tonight. There's going to be like,
which I'm actually glad for, because usually after the monthly live, you tend to like kill it, and then there's no price action next day, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do for the next 2 hours? Like,
well, there's a lot of movement now, so especially. I mean, you're a Kiwi, even CAD yen. Like, funny enough, I'm actually in CAD yen, which you'll really appreciate. That because of the hook in CAD yen. Let me just show you guys real quick. So if you see here on going to 4 hour, so Euro Aussie and Euro Kiwi is more of the obvious like push back in that we want to see. So that's Euro Aussie, Euro Kiwi, which is really nice. So we've come back in, but if we go to the lower time frame where we look to execute, there's really nothing there apart from the flag, vice versus being higher up in the run, and then you can just be tagged in, tagged out, it pulls back a bit deeper. But where CAD yen, even though it's not as own, because you've got this bit of liquidity there to the left, where it could go a little bit higher in between those ray lines, but you've got this part where we sold off from aggressively. We've essentially come straight back to that, moved back in, but then on the lower time frame, we've moved in, and you've got that hook point just below. Logically, it would make more sense for a continuation to drop out to that near miss.
Yeah.
Even though like the bigger picture doesn't always look the same, when you go to the 5, where we would be looking for it, it's so much clearer and obvious for the entry itself.
Yeah.
The daily on pound is looking stunning as well, but I really like this. This would be more of a, if we could get a running channel to that as well, that would be nice.
Yeah, very nice. Just to go up there and answer Luke's question, would that not make a conflict of interest when you have people in Rewire using different trading style? Not at all. It's catered to absolutely anybody and everybody, because everybody's got the same brain. Let's put it that way, right? In the sense that we've got one thing that's very clear is that psychological issues or roadblocks are prevalent with every single trader, regardless of how they trade. Like I said, trading the markets is an interpretive-based skill. Your trading strategy, trading method, but psychology is not interpretive. Like any trader, if you put 1,000 traders in a room together, they can all be trading a different method, a different system, but some will be hesitating traders, some will be impulsive traders, some will have this issue, that issue, irrelevant of what system that they trade. So your system doesn't dictate the issues that you have. And that's a massive misconception that people have out there. So it's catered to everybody and everybody. It's catered to traders as a whole.
Exactly, because your goal is to become what? A composed trader. If you think about it, your goal is to become a composed individual, because if you're composed, you're good under pressure emotionally. That's literally what you're searching for. So if you was to have a framework like Rewired that creates that, you become a composed individual. So whether you scalp gold, whether you trade indices, whether you trade Falcon, whether you trade SMC, whether you trade supply and demand, whether you trade wave, Fibonacci, the list goes on, support and resistance, emotionally you're composed, which means that you have a much higher percentage of you performing with whatever technical operation you have. We do host a quarterly webinar for, we actually have one coming up very soon. So for those of you that are in Rewired, we'll be announcing that date very, very soon, which is not too far away. We have a quarterly webinar where we catch up, and we've got lots of improvements that we're going to be bringing to the Discord and just lots of other things as well. So just fundamentally, it's not about the coaching or the webinars. It's about the modules. All of these extra things, these are just extras, because the kind of mentality that we've had from day one is that we love to go above and beyond, and we always add. So see this as like a long-term investment in yourself, that everything after you've got that secure. That's what people are not grasping. Whether it's 2K or 3K in the future, and all the extra facilities that added to that, you've got access to that, and you've got that locked in for life. In 3 years from now, you have that locked in for life. The value that it's at is absolutely insane, that you're able to access all of this and what's coming at this price. So you've got that covered much more.
Yeah, no, spot on, bang on. So I've been a trader for 4 years, but still no progress. I do invest in my knowledge. I'm busy with the Falcon course, and I'm always on the charts. Well, maybe that's why you're not seeing progress, because you're always on the charts. And the question is are you being busy in a productive manner, or are you being a busy fool? Being busy means nothing as a trader. We don't want to be busy as a trader. In fact, we want to be the opposite. The less busy you are, the more success you'll have because you've got less room for error. Do not try and be busy as a trader. It's the worst thing that you can do. And if you identify yourself as somebody who needs to be busy to be or to feel adequate as a trader of some kind because you feel like you're doing something, this is why people spend unneeded, reckless amount of hours testing when they don't need to do that. Like technically, I test every week. At the end of each week, what do? I go back through my trades of my trading week, my watch list. Did I miss any trades? Oh wait, I missed this trade. Why did I not see it? I do that in fact every day. If if I'm tracking a pair, like for example, CAD yen, let's just use a random pair because I've got it on the screen, and there was movement from a certain area, I would always look back on the lower time frames. Was there anything there? Maybe I might not entertain the trade, but I'm always just looking to see. Okay, the market moved up heavily from here or down heavily from here. Let me just always keep an eye on the market so I'm in sync with it. Not to say that all those trades are trades that I would take, but you guys get my point. So when you're in sync with the market consistently like that, you build your lens properly in the market. You actually train yourself to view the market properly and eloquently. And that's where traders go wrong. They're not doing that. Instead, they're looking at, I'm going to only trade what I see now, and whatever I get at the end of the week is what I get. And then I need to get this amount for this month. And they're always trying to be in pursuit of something instead of slowing down and looking at every single day what you're doing. You have to do simple and small things. And trading eventually becomes part-time in the sense of you're spending little to no time trading. Trading is not about trading in itself. Right? That's what people need to get. Trading is not about trading. Trading is about staying in a correct mental state throughout the entire week of the market open to market close. So you're sharp for the moments that you need to make the decisions. And that's it. That's all it comes down to. Just those 2, 3 moments, if that, more or less, sometimes even one moment in the week that you've got to be sharp. There's been times where I've stayed on the market correctly for 2 weeks, and it comes to a Friday at the end of the second week. I'm up at 5. I'm looking at the marks, nothing really on watch here. I didn't really sleep well last night. Let me get another hour in. I end up oversleeping till 7 o'clock and I miss a trade with 12%. That's how the market can catch you if you're just not sharp. Non-negotiable from Sunday to Friday. And then Saturday is the day not where you relax, where you get back into groove, you recharge again for the week ahead. And if you're recharging, because I recharge every day, my gym, whatever it might be, is different for everybody, but going to training of some kind is my way to disconnect, so to speak, very, very temporarily, so that I can get myself back in that flow again. If you do that, you can't possibly burn out. The problem is people go so hard unnecessarily and don't give themselves even 30 minutes in a day to themselves when they're doing something extra. Still, that's actually benefiting them, like gym or fighting or whatever you do. That's helping you in how as a trader, mental discipline and aptitude, to some degree, way, shape or form, right? So you've got to be doing something all the time that's keeping you in check. And then it becomes normal to you. So when that becomes your new normality, becoming a trader that's making high level decisions doesn't actually become a difficult job. Well, that's a big one.
Do you know what you said, which is absolutely bang on? And the reason why people do it, why they're always doing more things, is because if you've come from a 9 to 5 or you've come from school, and just most you will always touch work and doing more things, feeling good. Even till this day, we would feel it to a degree. What we have, again, just goes back to the same thing of rewired emotional awareness. We would actually go with brutal honesty. Those 10 things I've done today, or 7 things, are they tick box exercises, or are they things like, what out of the things I've done today moves the needle? Does it make a difference? And guess what? Some days you're going to do stuff that doesn't. You are going to tick box, and that's okay. But majority of a week, you should at least be allocating a good portion of your time to things that are progressively just getting you moving forward, and not just tick box, tick box, tick box.
Yeah, no, spot on, Mark. Absolutely bang on, yeah.
Question before we finish up, guys.
Yeah, it's a big one. This is right down my street, so if you guys don't mind, I don't want to hog the bike today, but that's right down my street.
Or yours.
So, all right, let's start from the beginning. So this actually is a very good question because a lot of people in the chat might be feeling this way as well. So what do you think about merging strategies to get a higher opportunity? For instance, SMC makes you lose a lot because of the small stop loss.